All right, folks, welcome to a new video. I've got a lot to talk about in this video. I'm going to try to make it quick. So let's just jump right into it. I was recently asked a pretty interesting question and it got me thinking. Somebody asked me about what steps I take to ensure that I end up in a good place once I pass, which was pretty much, someone's question. This was a religiously oriented person asking me in a roundabout way what I'm doing to ensure that my soul goes to heaven. And this person is concerned for me because I talk about certain things that contradicts his religious programming. And I'm not in here to bash religion, ladies and gentlemen, but this person essentially spends the duration of his life doing things in hopes of getting somewhere when he dies. And that's kind of what a lot of mainstream religion, for the most part, at least within the context of Christianity and Catholicism, is kind of structured around, isn't it? You doing things while you're here in hopes that you can wind up somewhere better when you're dead. Now, to me, this personally goes completely against my belief systems and what I think is moral, especially on a spiritual level, because I'm not here to do things so that I can get something when I die. I'm here, however, to do things to try to make this world a better place. Whether I end up somewhere because of it or not doesn't matter to me. If me being a good person, if me trying to make this world a better place and to inspire people to get healthier, if me trying to get people to question the mainstream narrative, what am I trying to say here? Excuse me, folks. If me trying to just make the world a better place even got me to hell, if I knew that it would get me to hell when I died, I would still do it. Because in my opinion, it's the right thing to do. Now, what am I trying to say here, ladies and gentlemen? I'm trying to say that you should do things that are good based on the fact that they're good, not because you might get something, a reward out of it. I'm not here to do things in an effort to hopefully get some special attention when I pass. No. I'm privy to the fact that the world is a hell realm right now. And instead of me trying to wind up in a better place when I pass, I would rather spend my time here trying to make this realm a heaven realm, because that's essentially what it's designed to be. The earth in its most pristine, harmonious state, ladies and gentlemen, is a beautiful sunshine. It's a beautiful garden filled full of sunshine, filled full of magic, filled full of mystery, filled full of shamanism, filled full of magic again. But right now we live in a world within a world, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? We live in a construct, a grid of sorts within the confines of Eden. Now, I call the realm that we live in Eden because Eden, biblically speaking, was a paradise of sorts. It was a garden. And although I do not resonate with mainstream Christianity, and I believe Eden to a large extent was even a control grid, I believe that it is an accurate metaphor to call this world Eden, because again, Eden was a paradise. I guess we could come up with a better term for it though, maybe Gaia as some people call it, but for the most part I just refer to it as Eden. And I don't really want to get into religion right now and whatnot, but even Eden was a control grid to a large extent, at least the biblical Eden. And I'll be talking about that in the near future, but I'm not a Satanist. I'm not some, Luciferian. I'm not, just because I don't agree with mainstream Christianity and Catholicism. I just have certain belief systems that contradict many of the mainstream belief systems when it comes to Christianity, mainstream religion just in general. It's so plastic to me. It's so overly commercial. It just wants to sell you something. Mainstream religion pretty much promises that all you have to do to be forgiven and to, wash away the evil that you've done here in this world is to ask for forgiveness. And, I don't really want to get into religion right now, but I think it's kind of maybe important that we touch upon it a little bit because, it just blew my mind, the question that this person asked. They were concerned for me because they thought my soul might end up in hell, so to speak. This person wanted me to do things here in this world so that I could potentially get to heaven. I want to keep coming back here to this earth until it's fixed. I don't want to go to heaven. I want to keep coming back here over and over until this realm resembles the realm that it was designed to be, which was a heaven realm. That to me is more honorable than me just attempting to play my cards right so that I could wind up in some proverbial heaven realm, This is just wild, man. The type of programming here, the religious programming, the dietary programming, the education system programming, the degree of muck that they've turned the average person's mind into. The confusion in the average person's mind, in their cortex, in their brain, their reasoning skills are completely gone. And it's really not that difficult to see, ladies and gentlemen. Average people have been turned into a completely domesticated creature living in a false environment. And they have, without a shadow of a doubt, been turned into zombies, quote unquote zombies. How do I know this, folks? How do I know that human beings have been turned into zombies? Well, in my early 20s, I had a handful of experiences known as Kundalini experiences. And I'm not going to elaborate in detail on these experiences in this video, but I am going to bring it up because it's important to relay the message that I have to bring it up to convey the message I'm trying to convey. I had a handful of spontaneous Kundalini awakenings in my early 20s, and I was allowed to see what reality was supposed to. How would I put it? I was designed to experience. I was allowed to experience states of consciousness that I don't want to call it enlightenment because that sounds like bragging to a large extent, and it's not bragging, folks, but I was allowed to experience states of consciousness that are considered by most people to be states of nirvana or samadhi. Some call it Christ consciousness, gnosis. Kundalini essentially is the reawakening of the electrical pathways of the human cerebral spinal system. And when this energy awakens, ladies and gentlemen, it turns on all of the dormant regions, energetic regions within the spinal ganglia. And it stimulates all the nerve clusters within all of the, within and around all of the ganglia. So let me just see if I can bring up a picture of a spine here, folks. Vertebra. Bear with me 1 second. This is a decent representation. Let me see if I can get a bigger one maybe. Here we go. So if you look here, ladies and gentlemen, on the screen, what you'll see is you have down here, you have what's known as the sacrum, then you have the coccyx. This is what Samael Anwar, the author of the Yellow Book and a handful of other books about Kundalini, called the coccygeal church. This region right here that looks like the tip of a scorpion's tail is where the Kundalini actually resides. It lies there dormant. And when the Kundalini rises up this coccygeal church, the coccyx, it begins to stimulate and heat up this portion of the spine called the sacrum. And if the Kundalini energy, the sexual energy, manages to start climbing up the cerebral spinal system, it starts to awaken these regions that are known as vertebra. There's multiple vertebra that constitute and make up the human spine, and there's nerves connected to all of these particular regions. So the spine right now is in a state of dormancy. We use maybe 5% of its potential. It's like we can relate it to kind of like a circuit board of sorts. It has a massive potential to carry electrical energy. Let's just put it that way. So when the Kundalini energy rises up these excuse me. When the Kundalini rises up the coccyx, ladies and gentlemen, and it starts stimulating all of these vertebrae, as it rises up each vertebra, it stimulates the nerves and the different connective tissues and all of the other cells, you know, the bone marrow within all of this. It stimulates all of these regions. And as the Kundalini energy rises up each of the vertebra, which again, all these little pieces right here, these are each vertebras. So there's multiple. They constitute the lumbar spine, which is here in the yellow, the thoracic spine, which is here in the green, and then you have up here the cervical spine, which is depicted in blue, excuse me. So as the Kundalini energy rises, I don't want to make this a huge fucking rant. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trying to bore you guys. It's hard for me to fit all of this information into these videos when they're shorter and when they're not long. So as the energy rises up each of these vertebra, it stimulates psychic centers and awareness in parts of your physiology that are currently in a state of dormancy. So when the energy fully rises up the spine, if it does, which is very uncommon, it gets into the head here, which you see me circling on the screen right now, and it completely awakens the entire brain spine connection, and all of these nerves and all of the connective tissue and everything connected to all of your spinal ganglia, ladies and gentlemen, now become hyper illuminated and you experience enlightenment. When all of these vertebrae in your brain are fully filled full of the purifying fire, the electricity of Kundalini, when the energy is moving up this divine circuit board, this, you know, your central nervous system, all of the pieces of what makes you who you are, you now can see reality for, you know, you can see reality the way you were designed to experience reality. What the Matrix has done, and I'm going to wrap this really quickly, folks. I apologize. I talk about Kundalini often, but it's important. This is how they're mind controlling us. They've turned this energy off. What the Matrix has successfully done is they've successfully caused and we've participated in it with our karma as well, ladies and gentlemen. We've actively participated in and we've shut our Kundalini off. It's gone from here, what you see on the screen right now, the head, and like Satan falling down into the pits of hell, which is what the whole Kundalini, you know, what this biblical story of, you know, Satan, you know, falling down into hell. Hell is this region down here. It's the coccyx. The heaven, our head is heaven. The head is heaven, excuse me. When Kundalini has gone back up the 33 steps or the 33 vertebra of God, ladies and gentlemen, it gets into the head and it allows you to experience heaven consciousness. There's a handful of different mechanisms of how this works. For instance, the divisions, the left and right lobes of your brain get unified. Your cerebellum, your, you know, prefrontal cortex, your dura mater, your pia mater, everything starts to become hyper illuminated. All of the cells hyper illuminate and you experience consciousness. Heaven consciousness is what the saints had attained through sanctification. They were people who just had their Kundalini awakened. That's besides the point. What's happened here in hell in the Matrix is that our Kundalini energy has fallen like Satan down into the realms of hell, which you see here on the screen right now, which is the coccyx. The Kundalini lies in this region, which is the red region of the root chakra, which most people associate red with hell, with heat, with fire. That's besides the point. Let me just get back on track. What I'm trying to convey here with the Kundalini rant here, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is how they've turned us into zombies. By successfully causing, or by us not having our energy working, by us not having the electrical energy of God moving through our cerebral spinal system, causing us to become enlightened through Kundalini, it has fallen down into the pits of hell here, and now we see reality with our cerebral spinal system primarily focusing or, you know, conducting energy in this particular region of our spine. So essentially we have all of this for the Kundalini energy to rise. And as it rises up the spine, it eliminates the chakras. It rises up two specific paths known as the Ida and the Pingala. These are two nerve channels. They're also known as nadis, that the Kundalini energy rises up when it does awaken from the caustics. It also moves up. There's three primary channels, folks, that Kundalini rises. It rises up a main channel that you can see on my screen right now. I'm trying to kind of depict it. This channel is like an astral and etheric tube that goes directly through the inside of the spine, and then around the spine, wrapping in kind of like a double helix, there's two pathways called the Ida and the Pingala. So let me see if I can bring up another depiction on my screen right now, and I'll show you exactly what I mean instead of just explaining it. Here we go. You have here a central channel, and then you have two pathways, the Ida and the Pingala. They're related to the sun and the moon. There's a handful of different dualistic associations that they're associated with. I'm not going to get into it in this video. What I'm trying to convey here, folks, is they've turned us into a zombie by shutting us off from this energy. Because when we don't have this energy moving through us, we operate like a zombie. We operate in a very small fraction of our potential. And that's why you see so much crime right now. That's why you see so much miscommunication. It's why you see so much, just hell on earth. And I know it may not seem like that to you if you've never really pulled your head out of your ass and taken a good look at reality. The system does a really good job of making things seem really honky-dory here in the United States. The system does a really good job of keeping people from really having a true glimpse of what's really going on here, ladies and gentlemen, with all of the factory farms, with all of the cloning facilities, with all of the research facilities where they're doing just horrific experiments with different branches of psychiatry and psychology. But why should people care? Why should you care if everything's going okay for you? Why should you care if you can go to college? Why should you care if you can work a peachy 9-to-5 job? Why should you care when it's your main duty in life to just live here and play your cards right so that hopefully God accepts you into the pearly gates? Why should you care about doing things here to help others? It's all about you, isn't it? Why should you care? And I'm not trying to sound rude or point fingers at any of my viewers. I'm just letting off some steam because the average individual has such a large narcissistic ego complex where they actually believe that they're the greatest thing ever and life is all about their own personal fulfillment and whatever they can get out of life. I'm sorry, that's just not how things work. That's how things work in the Matrix. And people who are still plugged into the Matrix operate in this fashion. Looking for a picture of, in the first Matrix film, folks, there's a scene, Matrix acupuncture. It's a really interesting scene, and I think it went over a lot of people's heads. So I wish I could show this on the screen right now, but I can't. I'm not 100% sure I can't, but I'm just going to play things safe. There's a scene, ladies and gentlemen, in the first Matrix film, and I recommend that everybody goes back and watches that because it is like an entire book all in one sitting. There is some profound Gnostic teachings being relayed to you in that mind. And most people, it goes right over their heads. Why? Because you didn't sit down and take notes while you watched the movie. You looked at the movie, and what I mean by that, what I mean by when I say that you didn't take notes during the movie, is that you didn't take it seriously, or most people. Again, I'm not pointing fingers at my patrons here, excuse me. But most people, when they go to a film like this, they went to be entertained. They didn't go to learn anything. They just wanted to see shit move on the screen. They wanted to see big explosions. They wanted to see Neo dodging bullets and all this nonsense. They didn't really see or read between the lines, did they? Because this movie is not only the story of Genesis from the Bible, but it's a story of Lucifer essentially tempting Eve to eat the apple of Eden, which is the red pill that Eve leads Neo, who is Adam, to eat, which Morpheus, who is, Lucifer, or the Serpent, if you want to call him that, offers to him. I hope that makes sense. I mean, Morpheus is kind of like a Prometheus character in the Matrix films. That's why when Neo first meets Morpheus, there's all sorts of thunder and lightning and rain going on in that first scene. There's symbolism to that. Prometheus stole fire, or the electricity, the divine power of the gods, and gave it to man. That's what Morpheus was doing in this movie. Trinity, who is Eve, ate the apple of Eden before Neo, who is Adam, did in the Bible, excuse me. The red pill is that apple of Eden. It's the divine fruit of the garden from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What happens when you eat the red pill? You know right from wrong. You know the truth. What happens when you eat the fruit, the forbidden fruit in the garden? You know right from wrong. You can see things as God sees them. You're no longer asleep. You know the truth now. In the Bible, who ate the apple or the fruit from the tree first? It was Eve. Who eats the apple or the red pill first in the Matrix films? It's Trinity, who is Eve, who then, just like the Bible, leads Adam, who is Neo, to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Hope that makes sense. I keep saying the apple of Eden. Based on my understanding, there's no actual proof that it was actually an apple in the Garden of Eden. And I believe that most scholars agree that they don't really know what the fruit was. It could just be a metaphor. So, the Matrix films are very, very potent Gnostic learning tools that convey a lot of messages and a lot of symbolism to your subconscious mind in a very short amount of time. And if you pay attention when you watch each scene, basically frame for frame, you'll start to get it if you do your research. Now, there's a scene, as I was saying, in the first Matrix film where right after Morpheus and the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar pulls Neo out of the Matrix, they go and retrieve his body in the sewers. They pull him back onto the Nebuchadnezzar and they revitalize his body. Because his body was plugged into the Matrix pod for however long, ladies and gentlemen. His muscles, have atrophied at this point. He needs to be revitalized with energy, which is chi, which is vital life force, which is prana, also known as vril or life force. So when he gets taken back onto the Nebuchadnezzar, they put him on an operating table of sorts and they stick him full while he's unconscious, if I remember, with a ton of acupuncture needles. And these are all in very specific points on the body where there are meridians that run through them. What they're trying to say here in this film is that the way that, how would I even say it? It's hard to put into words. Neo being unplugged from the Matrix is a really complicated metaphor for him plugging out of the Matrix and plugging into the Kundalini, which then gives him all of the divine superpowers to fight off Agent Smith. He has reached what's known as Christ consciousness or unified consciousness. He sees past all the programming, and now, ladies and gentlemen, now he can attain something known as the Kundalini Siddhis, which is what all of his power comes from in the movie. All of his mystical powers, which people thought were just like, just, well, we look at his powers. We're here to be entertained, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, they're trying to tell you that these powers these are the divine powers, some of Neo's powers in the movie that he attains after he plugs out of the Matrix and plugs into the Kundalini, which is what he gives him his power. Some of those powers are attainable through the awakening of Kundalini. They're known as siddhis or siddhas. The divine power of or the divine powers of an individual who awakens this energy, or excuse me. I want to get away from Kundalini. Excuse me, folks. I didn't intend to just make this a Kundalini rant. But it's important because that's how they've turned us into a slave species. That's how they've turned us into a filth-riddled society of mindless morons. No offense to the masses, but it's the truth. And how is it the truth? How do I know that's the truth? Because actions speak louder than words, and statistics don't lie. And statistically speaking, the herd, if you want to call it that, do disgusting things on a collective level. Maybe we should pull up some statistics in this video or an upcoming video and go over some of the crime statistics and just all of the shit people do statistically on a large scale that would just blow your mind. We operate in a very suboptimal frequency range or potential of our physiology and our consciousness and our mind. And because of that, we're like we've just become a slave species. How could anything that's only exhibiting and using this much of its infinite potential be anything more than a slave or a zombie? So to get back on track, it just kind of blew my mind that this person asked me, what are you doing so that you can get into heaven? I've already been to heaven. Heaven is a state of mind, ladies and gentlemen, that the Christ consciousness or gnosis or Kundalini gives us. Heaven is a realm on earth. It exists within the true kingdom of God, which is Solomon's temple, which is your walking physical body and mind. This body is the temple of the spirit, or as the Gnostic Christians called it, the spark, the eternal spark. You contain this spark of the original God, which is known as the monad. And because of that, you can actually come to know the true living God by awakening the Kundalini energy. I am amazed at how much of a lie we've bought into here, folks. We've been sold a bill of goods and we've bought into it. The average person will go their entire life thinking that life is just about working and paying bills. And they will live in a stressful environment where that's all they do. Now, I'm not judging, because I currently and have known, and I know what it's like to struggle with money. I know what it's like to be bound by bills. But I also know what it's like to do things of a creative nature while you're stuck in these situations, so that you can hopefully get the fuck out of this 9-to-5 rat race, so that you can eventually have some goddamn creativity and ability to have some freedom, so that you can pursue things of a spiritual and balanced nature, so that you can actually do something with your time or create something that can benefit everybody. Instead of just going through the motions of life and having to do the same thing every day just to live, there's something wrong here, folks. I know what it's like to be stuck in situations I'm currently in where bills, they're hard to pay. Sometimes I barely make it. But I'm constantly trying to do the right thing regardless. I'm not just dropping my mind out and completely unplugging because my days are stressful. I'm not eating garbage food and drinking beer and smoking cigarettes because my day was fucking stressful. I'm not sitting in front of the television for hours on end after I get home or after a long day's work because my day was fucking stressful. I used to do that. I used to work long, hard days, and I would come home exhausted and just want to sit in front of that goddamn television for hours. And I tell you what, it becomes a real comfortable, real sedating situation. And before I knew it, 4 years had gone by, and I had spent probably 3 or 4 hours in front of the television 5 days a week, or even on the weekends I would watch TV. So I was watching let's just say I watched 3 hours a day. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I was watching about 20 hours of television a week. Let's just do one thing here, folks. Let's look up how much television does the average person watch per week. I can't spell today. Does the average American child? Let's see what the average American child. This is from med.edu. I'm not sure how credible this is, but I'm imagining it's somewhat credible. On average, children ages 2 to 5 spend 32 hours a week in front of a TV. DVDs. Oh, excuse me. Let's just read this. Let me bring it up on the screen right now so you, ladies and gentlemen, can look at this and enjoy this statistic with me. It says here, folks, on average, children ages 2 to 5 spend 32 hours a week in front of a TV, watching television, DVDs, DVR, and videos, and using a game console. Kids ages 6 to 11 spend about 28 hours a week in front of the TV. The vast majority of this viewing, 97%, is of live TV, which is, ladies and gentlemen, nothing but advertisements. Have you ever seen some of the advertisements on the television? They're primarily garbage foods, medication commercials that always tell you that there's a good chance that you might die. You could die if you take these medications. There's always a list of symptoms. Have you ever really? TV is just primarily advertisements, folks. I remember when I was younger, I sat in front of that damn television box for hours every day when I got home from school. And, excuse me, there was a lot of television back when I was in there was a lot of advertisements on television back when I was in middle school. But when I was back home in California for a couple of months visiting family recently, the TV was on rather frequently, and there's even more commercials now. It's like you get like 7 to 14 minutes of program, and then you get like 4 minutes or more of advertisements. Just this repetitive grind of filling your mind full of bullshit. But this is insane right here. Again, on average, ladies and gentlemen, children ages 2 to 5 spend 32 hours a week in front of a TV, watching television, DVDs, DVR, and videos, and using a game console. Kids 6 to 11 spend about 28 hours a week in front of the TV. The vast majority of this viewing is 97%. I'm guilty of this. I know that this statistic is correct because I was on board with this. I used to play so much World of Warcraft, Counter-Strike, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was a cool one I used to play. I remember it was the cool thing. You learn this in elementary, or you learn this in the school system, to think that video games are like the coolest thing ever. And I fell for it. And I loved it at the time. I just can't stand video games anymore. I've tried to get into them again in the past, 4 or 5 years, just to kind of try to play a game to see what it was like, and I just can't stand it. It's a total waste of time, in my opinion. But I view the world differently than most people, I think. I'm not here to try to I like to entertain myself, but I don't feel comfortable spending hour after hour in front of a television screen. I feel like I'm losing my life, whether it be a video game, television shows, which are all garbage nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, whatever it is. The one thing that I do watch is movies. I watch documentaries, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So I'm not completely off the chain here. I still watch things, but I'm sure as hell not watching the advertisements, and I'm sure as hell not watching mindless television. I'm constantly trying to enrich my mind with information. I'm trying to learn, and at the same time, nutrifying my body. Check that out, ladies and gentlemen. This is blue-green algae. This is spirulina, which is actually a biomass of cyanobacteria. Let me see if I can. Let me just respond to a message here, folks. Sorry about this. sending out a package today, and someone was wondering if I had sent it out yet. But check this out. See how it's blue? Now it's purple. Now it's blue, now it's purple. When intense light hits this, folks, when intense light hits this, it turns blue or purple. But this is actually like a glacier water. This is one of the most mineral-rich things that you can put into your system. This is known as Arthrospira platensis, or what most people refer to as just spirulina. This is a biomass of cyanobacteria. It's essentially an algae, and it's filled full of protein. It's filled full of minerals. It's got vitamins B1, B2, B3. It's got a decent amount of iron in there as well. And it just has a ton of something known as phycocyanin violeta, which is a very powerful plant pigment protein complex, ladies and gentlemen, that exerts a very strong anti-inflammatory effect on the tissues. It also has a large amount of chlorophyll, even though you would think it doesn't right now because it's blue, but it has a lot of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a plant pigment compound, essentially, that plays a part in photosynthesis and how plants convert energy from the sun into a fuel source. This is one of the greatest ways to get chlorophyll into your system. Chlorophyll has chlorophyll has a very cooling effect on the gastrointestinal system. So, just a brief message, folks. Constantly put things into your system. Constantly upgrade yourself. How do you upgrade yourself? You upgrade yourself by unplugging from the nonsense that's not doing you any good and not giving you the upliftment that you need so that you can tackle your life's mission. You unplug from that nonsense. You cut the cord to that. And then in the recuperation phase, after you unplug, you shower yourself with nothing but self-love, while at the same time nourishing yourself with the greatest things that you can afford. Health, taking care of yourself, is one of the most supreme acts of self-love, ladies and gentlemen. Taking care of yourself is truly the foundation of a spiritual life. In my opinion, you can't really live a spiritual life or be closer to spirit without taking care of your goddamn health. That's just a personal opinion. Some people would say otherwise. Some people say that the spirit, the physical doesn't matter at all. It's just about your happiness and whatnot. It's always this selfish outlook. Excuse me. The more you take care of yourself, if you do it properly, and if you don't go too fast, and if you don't do all these crazy detoxes all at once and whatnot, you'll start to feel better. You'll feel better, and feeling better will motivate you to continue, ladies and gentlemen, on your path. When you start feeling better and you start getting rid of any of the bullshit symptoms that are currently plaguing you, whether it be of body and mind, when you start feeling better, you're going to want to do more with your life. Sure as hell, your blinders are going to open, folks. The more you take care of your health, if you do it properly, your blinders will open up and you'll be able to take in more information. You'll be able to see past all the mind control that people are currently enslaved to, man. It's insane, this type of stuff that people fall for in here in this matrix, the way people get duped because of lack of awareness. And what causes lack of awareness? I'll tell you what causes lack of awareness. A lifetime of being exposed to the damn television, a life of being exposed to mainstream modern education and the limits it puts on your subconscious, a lifetime of eating garbage, bullshit, MPK grown foods devoid of all minerals, micronutrients, magnesium, you name it. Another thing, not to rehash it and bring it up again, ladies and gentlemen, another way that they've totally just shut humanity off is the downregulation of certain minerals in your system. They have specifically kept you in a state of magnesium deficiency for years and years and years, and that puts so much stress on your body. And before you know it, that lack of a magnesium has reached such a point where you start dumping all your B vitamins, you start dumping your selenium, you start burning all your minerals up, don't you? Because that's what happens when you're stressed, especially with magnesium. And then you don't feel good and you start to lose your mind and you can't remember anything and you get brain fog and just all this other nonsense. There are so many symptoms right now that are classified as health issues that are just a byproduct of living here in this crazy world and living according to the systems, what they give you or what they offer you, excuse me. I'm going to say one thing, and I'm not going to get back on magnesium because I talk about it a lot, but magnesium is crucial, folks. Get on a magnesium supplement. Magnesium glycinate is a great one. Magnesium citrate is okay. I don't really recommend it though. It's a good one though. It's a decent one if you can afford it. But right now, magnesium bisglycinate, which is basically magnesium glycinate, you can find that in my Amazon store for less than $3 for $3 for a half pound. Take a teaspoon a day. Voila. There are a handful. The majority of your body's enzymatic functions require adequate levels of magnesium to work properly. And when those functions don't work properly, you don't function properly, especially up here, which means that these eyes, which are basically an extension of your brain, it's your brain looking outward. Think about it. All the optical nerves and everything connected goes right into your brain. Your eyes are literally connected to your brain and it's sending information into your brain. But when you're magnesium deficient, do you really think these eyes are going to work properly? Do you really think you're going to be able to decode the matrix efficiently and see past all of the mind control? No. It's like my armpit's sweating there. It's kind of gross. It is time to wake up. Yes, it is. Because we're living in crazy effing times, folks. Let's just say that, but let's just put it that way. We're living in crazy times. And this will go over the heads of most people. So, my system of health is really easy to follow. It just requires you to do your best to clean up your diet a bit. You don't have to go too extreme. Just start slowly stripping away things that aren't good for you. Be careful with the stress, though, because trying to change too many things about your life can cause a lot of stress, and stress can lead to turbulence, which can make you rebound back and forth. It can make you rebound back and forth. Excuse me. Total brain fart. My phone keeps going off. Too much stress can make you it can make it difficult to stay on a healthy lifestyle. A lot of people think that a healthy lifestyle is going to be stressful. It doesn't have to be. Just start changing little things about yourself. Get yourself a water filter. Stop eating one of the garbage foods if you're eating it that you eat regularly. Just eliminate piece by piece. Wean yourself off. A lot of people want to get off of change themselves overnight from a lifetime of eating all the wrong foods and doing all the wrong things. You got to go slow, man. Slow and steady wins the race. But my system requires you to get away from or do the best you can to clean up your diet. Get away from all the negative addictions that are destroying you, the cigarette smoke, the drinking, the drug use. Get that figured out first amongst everything. Drink clean water. And then start, ladies and gentlemen, targeted supplementation with things like magnesium, coenzyme Q10, vitamin C, bacopa. There's a handful of different herbs and different regimens that I recommend. Contact me if you're interested, because everybody's different. And everybody requires different things. But aside from all that, that is just the basics. Clean water, cleaner food. You can still have some junk food here and there. Targeted supplementation. Get away from the addictions. Get good sleep. Start doing grounding. Ground your bed to the earth. Get a water filter, air filter. And then start entering your inner temple. I'm going to put links in the description box below on how to do this. Enter your inner temple. This is the one way entering your inner temple allows you to come into contact with your own personal power source. I'm not going to get into it, how this works in this video, because I've gone over that in previous videos. But entering your inner temple allows you to work with the parts of your mind that you're currently not working with, while you're in this reality, consciously always awake and having to do things. You always have stress and obligations. When you stay in that type of consciousness, it wires the brain in a very specific way, and it rewires the circuitry so that you never enter into the more, meditative states of mind. In order for you to truly get healthy in this crazy world, you're going to have to learn to cool your brain down. You're going to have to learn to cool your system down. Everything's operating on overdrive right now, ladies and gentlemen. You are overheating, metaphorically speaking. I don't mean that literally, but in a way I do. You are overheating and grinding your gears. And on top of that, the spark plugs haven't been changed in years, and you need specific minerals back in your system so that your neurochemistry can start functioning properly. You enter in your inner temple and you start doing the motionlessness and thoughtlessness exercises, as well as the full body relaxation. That's it. You also start applying some alchemical breathing techniques. But that makes up the foundation of my protocol. I just laid it out for you. Eat as healthy as you can with what you can afford. Get on a magnesium supplement. There's a handful of supplements I would recommend, but I'm just giving you the very bare basics. Clean up your diet to the best of your ability. Get on a magnesium supplement. Start grounding yourself. Walk barefoot on the earth in your backyard for like 15 minutes a day, or just sit on a chair and do it. You're going to receive a lot of negatively charged electrons. They have an anti-inflammatory effect on your system, and it connects you to the caloric kingdom of Earth, the energetic resonance of Earth, the Schumann resonance as well. Get away from negative addictions. That's really the crucial thing here, is first and foremost, get your addictions in check. Then once you start doing that stuff, start doing the inner temple exercise. Start doing the alchemical breathing techniques that I talk about. I'm going to do a specific video on those in just the near future, ladies and gentlemen, so keep an eye out for those. That will be a really fun video to do, all of the alchemical breathing techniques, the in polarity and the void polarity and the out polarity. If you're interested and want to learn more, check out John Kreider's book that I constantly recommend here. It's homework. It's essential curriculum for my courses. Check out his book, Overcoming the Archon Through Alchemy. Learn how to breathe, ladies and gentlemen. Learn how to breathe. Most of you do not know how to breathe. You've been breathing from your upper lungs your whole life. You don't breathe from your diaphragm. On top of that, when you take inhalations, you're not breathing energy in, you're just breathing just empty air. That book and my upcoming videos will explain exactly how to do these breathing exercises. But, if you want to start breathing deeper, I would recommend doing about 10 minutes of breathing exercises a day, and preferably on an empty stomach. It's going to be really difficult for you to expand your lungs and your diaphragm efficiently and properly if you have a full stomach. So what I like to do is I like to do them in the morning. I'll have a cup of coffee, wait like 35 minutes, and then I'll do my breathing exercises. Empty stomach, you're going to be able to, without food in your system too, you're going to be able to think much clearer. So we'll talk about that in the near future, folks. But one thing I want to recommend, though, is that if you have lung issues, or if you want a herb to take to enhance your breathing exercises, check out Gynostemma pentaphyllum. It's also known as Jaugalon. It's a 5-leaved pentaphyllum herb that has amazing health benefits for your lungs. And if you drink that 20 minutes before your breathing exercises, you're going to get a lot more out of it. It delivers oxygen to the lungs. It has mild expectorating properties. What else does Gynostemma have in it? It has this specific component that I believe is known to turn off one of the aging genes. Not completely, but it largely mutes it. I can't remember the exact name of that, though. We'll talk about Jaugalon in the near future. I have videos here on the Patreon page dedicated to it. And, just do the inner temple, do the motionlessness exercises, watch my videos, and apply the very basic things that I talk about. And you will attain more power if you stay on this system, ladies and gentlemen. You will get more of your mind back You'll get more of your mental power back. But that doesn't come without a cost, because becoming more conscious in this world means that you're going to notice the sickness everywhere. And a lot of people can't handle that. A lot of people don't want to become truly conscious in this world. It's much easier to remain in the whole ignorance is bliss state of mind, where it's just like, you don't have to think at all. You don't have to worry. Why would you want to worry? It's all about you. It's all about you getting into heaven. It's all about you and your personal fulfillment. Just go through life. Make sure that you do a few good things so that hopefully you get to go to heaven when you die. Don't do anything here, though, because this realm doesn't matter. All the people and creatures here that are suffering don't matter. Just die, go to wherever you're going, and hopefully it's a good place. Don't come back here and try to fix things. It's too scary for you. You know, you want to stay, I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's amazing to me the type of programming that people have, especially when it comes to religion. But I'm going to wrap this one up, folks. I wanted to go longer. Maybe we'll do a part 2 to this and I'll stitch it together. But for now, we're just going to wrap this up at 50 minutes. I need to get to the post office. I love you all, and may peace be with you. You know, one thing I can add really quickly, and I want to add, is the importance. I did a video on my YouTube channel of a herb called Bacopa monnieri. And Bacopa, ladies and gentlemen, I would highly suggest looking into that. It's an Ayurvedic herb. It's known as the herb of grace. There's a handful of different names for it. It has massive amounts of constituents known as bacosides. It really, really, really helps expand the consciousness if it's in an extracted form. I would recommend looking into a supplement company called Doublewood Supplements. They make a really powerful extract of Bacopa. Unfortunately, the capsule has gelatin in it, and I'm working on trying to get that company to change it to like a, maybe like a mushroom-derived capsule instead of gelatin. But that particular Bacopa extract is really, really profound and has a ton of health benefits, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just see if I can bring up my post and I'll show it to you. You know what? I'm not going to bring it up. If you're interested, just go check out my video on Bacopa. I brought this up because this herb has a very strong anxiolytic stress relieving capability, and it can be a very beneficial thing to take when you're changing things about your life or trying to become healthier. It just can kind of help your mind go into the right space, at least for me personally, but everybody reacts to things differently. So what works for me may or may not work for you. But Bacopa, largely, it's used as an antidepressant. It's used as an anxiolytic, which again means to lower anxiety. It just kind of helps mute the stress of life so that you can focus on what's important. Just a brief little tip there. It's Bacopa, B-A-C-O-P-A. Again, that's B-A-C-O-P-A, Bacopa monnieri. It's a Brahmi herb, and there's 2 main Brahmi herbs within the Ayurvedic system of self-healing. There is Bacopa, and there is also an herb called Gotu-kola. They have similar mechanisms of actions, but they work on the neurochemistry in the brain much differently in the connective tissues. Bacopa, in my opinion, is much stronger, but it's easier to find good quality Gotu-kola. Brahmi herbs are known to enhance consciousness. That's essentially what Brahmi means, and these herbs have been used in the Ayurvedic system of healing for hundreds of years to enhance consciousness, to improve memory. Bacopa is a profound memory tonic. It's calming to the gastrointestinal system. In fact, it can help you eliminate waste from your system. It's an all-around great herb, and I think it's just a great thing to take on a regular basis if your body can tolerate it. Peace be with you. I wanted to personally thank you for watching my videos and contributing to the growth of my channel. I could not do this without you, and your interest in my content is truly what motivates me and fuels my passion for making these videos and spreading my message. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wanted to remind you that this channel is a free educational tool that is listener supported, and if you would like to donate to my channel and donate to my cause, help make my life a little bit easier and help keep the lights on around here, you can do so by checking out the links in the description box below. There's a handful of not only ways to donate to my channel, but I also have links to different websites and different videos of mine, as well as my Amazon store, where you can check out a plethora of different health-related products that I use and recommend. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your continued interest in my message, and until next time, peace be with you all.